To the DrivingMaul show. Hi, I'm Paul. I'll be your host this evening, and the main topics we'll be going through this evening will be obviously the Six Nations and also the Super Rugby Pre-Season games, which I managed to get to one of them on Friday. So before this bad weather hit, and basically I got stuck indoors for the past couple of days with all this rain, but thankfully I'm all safe, and whilst I've got a new drip down the chimney, which is a bit of a worry. Overall, not in as bad a place as a lot of people. So please do try and stay safe out there, folks. I know a lot of people have not had electricity. There's obviously a lot of rain and flooding as well. So I say, please do stay safe. Don't travel if you don't need to. And hopefully you're all doing fine. Don't forget, you can join us at 8 p.m. every Monday talking about rugby. I will be live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And Christopher Edwards Bailey there. Good evening to you, sir, joining us on the old YouTube there, New Zealand Sport Radio. And if you prefer just to listen, then you can catch the podcast that comes out afterwards as well. Obviously, you can also watch the video recordings. You don't have to watch them live. Now, if you watch it live, you can join in and have a chat in the live chat via Facebook and also YouTube as well. On my own, so there'll be moments of quiet where I have a quick drink to wet the whistle, wet the vocal cords to keep going during this. But first, let's have a chat about the Super Rugby preview, Super Rugby pre-season that we had. Now, the game I got to was Moana Pacifica versus the Chiefs. Now, this was a close shot one. Only sponsors and members were invited, plus a couple of us managed to get media passes as well. Charlie, good to see you joining us also on the old YouTube there. So this was actually on their training pitch, not on the main pitch at Mount Smart Stadium. So you might have seen my photos, all the videos of the post-match interviews that I did with a couple of players and the two head coaches as well. It was a very intimate atmosphere in a small venue there that they're having, which was kind of gave it much more of a club rugby kind of feel. You can hear me talking about that with the coaches in particular in their post-match interviews. All those are over on our Facebook page. You want to listen to them in their entirety. We're going to have a quick snippet from one of my questions to Clayton McMillan in a second. But I mean, the game finished 7 points for Moana Pacifica, 48 for the Chiefs. And as with many of these games, it was 4 quarters of 20 minutes, so the full 80 minutes, but as many subs as you felt like in that one. What to me kind of came out of this was, look, we probably should not be getting our hopes up too much about Moana Pacifica. You've got to remember, last season they won just 2 games and a points difference of minus 247 across the 14 games that they had, allowing in the most number of tries, 76 there. But they did score 37 tries, which was more than the Fijian Drua. So on that one, so more attacking than Fijian Drua in that kind of sense. Come away with just 2 losing bonus points as well. So whilst they did win 2 games, they were close in 2 games. The other 10 games, let's be honest, they were more than a score away. Also, if you look at the pre-season last year, when Moana Pacifica played the Chiefs, ended up 7-61. So it's closer this year at 7-48. But I think we need to set our expectations, perhaps dampen them a little bit. I know I got a bit enthusiastic as to how many games they might win, how much might go this year, having had a pretty settled side on last year. A bunch of those players having had international experience as well that hadn't had before. So we have to wait and see on that one. So the thing that jumped out at me was they seemed to always, when they had the ball, seemed to quite often end up with a 3-on-5 or situation on the blind side as they were making their way across the pitch, phase after phase. And you're thinking the players perhaps not working around around the corner enough on attack. It seemed to be one of the things that came to me from a Chiefs point of view, a very good run out for them. I do still wonder about having Bryn Gatland and Dane McKenzie on the pitch at the same time. There were a couple of occasions where they were stood in the same place, both looking to be first receiver, both to play that fly half role, even though Dane McKenzie was supposed to be in the fullback role. So I'm not sure. We'll see how that works. I mean, Dane McKenzie, I think, when he was up in Japan, was playing 10 rather than 15. So it'll be interesting to see where DMAC gets to play. He did play in the 10 position after that first quarter. So it'll be interesting to see how Clayton McMillan juggles his resources at 10 there. Obviously, also with Josh Ioane there as well. So a number of options that he can play in that 10 jersey, and also Rivers Rehana, I think, is also there as well. From I've got the squad list up at the moment. But let's have a quick listen to what Clayton had to say to my question about does he have enough time ahead of the rest of the season. Sorry if this is a bit faint, folks, but we'll try and get it as loud as I can.
So you're confident that these two hit-outs against Blues and Moana Pacifica are going to be, you're going to be ready to hit the ground running on against the Crusaders first up?
Oh, you're not going to cover every base, in 2 games, especially when you're trying to, give everybody an opportunity that's been part of your pre-season, an opportunity to get out and showcase their ability and stake a claim for a starting position. But if you get enough under your belt and build your game enough that you're competitive in those early rounds, and then you just keep building from there.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.
All good. See you fellas later.
There you go. Clearly, it's only having 2 games is not much of pre-season. And you think that Anton Brown was walking around with his sliders, getting the coffees in for the coaches. There was also Brody Retallick, just in trainers walking around, and also someone mentioned that Kane was as well. I didn't see Sam Kane myself. So a number of players still not back and playing. I think they will all be back next week for the final hit out. So he's not. So still integrating those All Blacks back into the side, even though players like DMAC, who was on tour with the All Blacks 15 at the end of last season, and a few others were playing. Not all of the All Blacks are back there at all. Not so right says, Bruce Rehana, a bit long in the tooth, really. No, Rivers Rehana, not Bruce Rehana in that one. So and not trying to missing the club rugby parts to get players up to speed. Yeah, that's clearly it's before that, and we don't get that's what I'm looking for. Yeah, obviously there isn't the club rugby going yet for players to get up to speed, and some of the lesser known ones might get some time in club rugby, but not your All Blacks. That's for certain. And I just realised I've brought up the. I was just trying to share the wrong thing with that one, and doesn't seem to have the table that I was hoping. Oh, there's a screenshot. There we go. So what I'm going to do is bring up the last year's Super Rugby table when we talk about the pre-season games and what they kind of mean. So Moana Pacifica losing 7-48 up against the Chiefs. Unsurprised when you look at Moana Pacifica in last and Chiefs in 3rd place on the table. So pretty much, I guess, what we should expect. The Highlanders beat the Crusaders 35-33. Now the Crusaders missing a number of All Blacks, just like the Chiefs were there. But still decent, a good hit out early on for the Highlanders there, down in 8th place last season. So is that positive for them? We don't read too much into pre-season games, but that looks good for them at this point. The Blues beat the Hurricanes 28-21. Again, Blues in number 1, Hurricanes in 5th. Both sides missing some players, so that's sits as to where you probably expect them to do. Brumbies beating Rebels 35-33. Brumbies there in 4th. The Rebels down in 10th. Only 4 wins last season. Now the Rebels came off the back of a loss to the Fijian Drua 24-0 the previous weekend. So or 2 weekends ago, I think. So look, much better showing by the Rebels there as they're heading towards pre-season. Again, I won't read too much into how close it was. I think the Brumbies heading in the right direction there. And then the Waratahs 33, the Reds 32. Look, those two teams finished 6th and 7th in the table, both with 8 wins. Unsurprising that they played a tight one there heading into the season. All nice kind of high-scoring affairs, apart from Moana only getting the 1 try there in that one. So stuff heading towards the week, the Super Rugby kicking off. In this coming week, you've got the Fijian Drua versus the Force on Thursday evening. We'll also then on to Friday, where the Hurricanes will host the Crusaders in a 5 p.m. game there. And the Highlanders host Moana Pacifica, and that's a 6 p.m. Neither of those two, I don't think, are on Sky, but Blues versus the Chiefs at 6 o'clock on Friday will be on Sky Sports 1. That's a game that I'm hoping to be at. I've applied for my media accreditation. Not heard back yet on that one, but hopefully I'll be there. Also, there is a game of 3 halves for the Super Rugby Aupaki for the on the ladies' side. So Blues women against the Waratahs women, and also the Chiefs Manawa, the Chiefs women's team there. So those 3 teams are playing each other: Blues, Waratahs, then Blues, Chiefs, then Chiefs, Waratahs. It'd be really interesting to see how the Waratahs go against both the Blues and the Chiefs. The Waratahs, obviously from Super W over in Australia. So I guess it'd be interesting to see how they go against them. Obviously, the Chiefs with 3 wins from no losses last year, but a change in head coach. Blues 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. Or did they actually just play 2 games? And the draw was actually, I think, was a cancelled game due to COVID on that one. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how they will go. The Chiefs have yet to lose a game. So it'll be interesting to see. Can the Chiefs continue that their winning record in this pre-season game as well? Game of 3 halves, as I said. So hopefully I will be at both of those. They're both at Pocono on Friday. You can get tickets to that one. So if you are free, head on down and catch those games. The women's games kick off at 2:40. Obviously 3 halves there, and then the men's game kicks off at 6 p.m. On Friday. So get on down to watch those. Should be a cracker over there. I'm really looking forward to watching those. So that gives us on the Super Rugby side. Oh yes, so a couple of news items we should probably have. I should have covered off on at the top of the show. Keeping on the Super Rugby, or on New Zealand Rugby anyway. Obviously there's been a number of comments around the All Blacks head coaching situation post Rugby World Cup. Razor coming out and saying they expect something to happen in the next couple of weeks, and then New Zealand Rugby is saying no, we're not at that stage yet. So conflicting reports there. Most of the rumours are that Jamie Joseph will be getting the gig, not Razor. Joe Schmidt, I guess, is the other person that's in there that no one seems to be talking about. Maybe they're looking at him staying on in an assistant role, or maybe he's got other designs post Rugby World Cup. We'll have to wait and see on that one. So again, there's to and froing as to what Razor's saying, what New Zealand Rugby is saying. Sam Cane's come out and just said, look, whatever you do, let's just get these off-field distractions away from the players, please. We're going to concentrate on the World Cup. He did make it clear that he didn't know if the best way was to just do it before the Rugby World Cup or afterwards. But his point of view was just, look, please think about the players. You're trying to enable the players to have the best Rugby World Cup, the best chance possible to win the Rugby World Cup. So don't let this distraction impact the players, was something that he was basically trying to say. The other thing I spotted that's a couple of other things. One is around Zach Guilford is going to be coaching a team down in Canterbury. This is despite him also being under some sort of detention order and getting caught smoking cannabis. Seriously, here's a guy who's had so many chances and so much help, and just seems to continually get himself in trouble. Interesting that a team down in Canterbury is giving a chance there. So we'll see how that one. We'll see if that all pans out. No doubt if it all goes well, we probably won't hear a thing about it as long as it's club rugby. It's not Super Rugby. We're only going to hear again about it if things go wrong for Zach. So hopefully things stay quiet and go well for him. But we'll have to. But there we go. Interesting that the club is willing to give another go with him. And then Radio New Zealand have produced a podcast looking at some Pacific rugby called Fair Game. Look, I've not listened to this one yet, but it sounds really interesting. So I will be looking at downloading that one. The Fair Game Pacific Rugby. So I'll listen to it. And if you fancy it, then also have a listen as well. Anything I hear that's interesting, obviously, I will talk about it on the shows as well coming up. That's right, every Monday. Don't forget you can catch us on New Zealand Sports Radio at 8 p.m. Tonight's how does Guildford stay out of jail? I don't know how the old legal process works, folks, on that one. But it does seem to have history. I guess is the nice way of putting it. So let's get on to the Six Nations then, where we had 3 games at the weekend. The first of those was Ireland versus France. Ireland winning that one 32-19. And that's despite having being held up by France over the try line 3 times. Also, that amazing try-saving tackle by DuPont against Mac Hansen, and dropping the ball over the line as well. So another 5 opportunities to score there on top of the ones they'd already scored. So, impressive performance by Ireland there, showing themselves to be why they are number 1 in the world with this one. Amazing try by Damien Penaud. Do have a look at that as to why I would think probably possibly put him in a World 15 as one of the wingers. Fantastic player. Really impressed with him on this one. And it was a real show there that for that one was for his tries. Get the ball to the player in space. It's not about how it gets there. It's about just getting the ball there. It wasn't pretty, but once he got it, it became very pretty and very effective as well. Finally, an interesting thing that I picked up from the game is that it seemed that Murray, the scrum half, was fielding a lot of high kicks on that one. And you think, geez, that's why do you have your 9 when your smallest players on the pitch fielding high kicks and trying to get up for them? But he seemed to be doing that on several occasions, and it didn't sort of always work. Well, it didn't consistently work out. But interesting choice of structure to have him regularly fielding high kicks there against France. Good for France to have to think about their attack. 1 breakout try in the game. Just 1 try to 4 from Ireland. I guess, again, I think we mentioned it about Ireland, was it last week, where they scored like 3 tries in the first half, but it was only 8 minutes before the end. They got that 4th try. So, leaving it late to secure that bonus point. Dr. Wright's pointing out that Murray is 6 foot tall, so not too short. Maybe so. But it still seems strange to me having your 9 going up trying to claim high balls. Maybe I'm old-fashioned in thinking about the sizes of relative players. We have big players all over the pitch nowadays, playing different positions. One of those was playing from Moana Pacifica at the weekend. I've just gone blank as to his name, but the prop, well over 6 foot and seemed to be as tall as the locks, which kind of confused me for a second as to whether I got the name of the player right when I was watching it. Let me see if I can bring up the name. He was doing a lot of talking in the huddles. Now I've not got the names here. After tries had been scored, it was interesting that he was clearly one of the leaders, even though he wasn't a captain or vice captain officially on the team sheets. So Ireland there with that one, and here are some stats I've been pulling up from last week and this week, looking at some stats across the games. Obviously, you can see that the score lines there, both in 83% kicking their goals, which is good. Ireland, this was the most kicking game in the round, unlike the previous week, whereas France was actually involved in the least kicking game. They got involved in the most kicking game here. Both last week and this week, they've kicked less than their opposition, and yet there is this perception at the moment that France do kick more than anyone else in one of the most kicking sides in World Rugby. We heard that on Eddie. I mean, Eddie Jones said that during his podcast last week, and it's great that Eddie Jones is doing a podcast. So interesting that they're not actually the stats aren't holding up to this. One thing you can see though is that both last week and this week, France had the most offloads of any team. So clearly, that is their style of play with lots of offloads. Whereas you can see Ireland only 6 offloads this week, 5 last week. They're not about offloads. They got the same number of. They still got more line breaks than France did, but they had half the number of offloads there with that one. A lot of missed tackles in this game. 38 by Ireland, 23 by France, way more than you'd want, and particularly by Ireland there. That's a lot of missed tackles, considering they made 100 tackles less than France. They made more missed tackles. Not as bad as England at the top there, but still not great by Ireland there. After both these two teams were kind of the two of the better sides last weekend, not missing tackles. But the penalty count this one very low, just 14, with both of them on 7. So cracking game, a lot of ball in play time, over 40 minutes, which apparently is a lot. A cracking game of rugby. And if you missed it, I do fully suggest you go back and watch that one. Moving on then to Scotland, Wales. Scotland there, 35-7. So backing up their win over England. So the two teams they've played so far, the two teams with brand new coaches in that one, and in England and Wales. Wales really in a poor situation at the moment. For both weeks now, they've had the lowest number of points scored in both of their games. So clearly their attack needs a lot of work. I was less down on them last week than I am this week. I thought they left a lot of opportunities out there. This week, though, only 1 clean break against Ireland. Wow. Against Scotland. Not very good at all. Scotland, 10 clean breaks with 6 last week. So they're clearly getting those clean breaks out there, even though, again, just like Ireland, they are the least offloading team in the whole tournament. Now, Ireland had less and low, but they're even less than Ireland. 4 last week, 4 this week, only 8 offloads. I mean, that's less than Italy did or France did in their entire game this week over 2 games. But as Nocturnal writes, talks about Ireland getting quick rock ball. It's about quick rock ball that leads to those line breaks, and also a lot of missed tackles. As you can see, 28 by Wales this week, 33 last week, so better than last week, but still far too many. Really, there, and penalties again. Last week, penalties 15. The second most penalties given up this week. They're the most with 17. So again, Wales struggling to giving up far too many points and giving up far too many penalties as well. They are in a mess. Looks right, Wales have to try and develop a new team this year as a write-off. Yes, but this year is also a Rugby World Cup year, so you can't just write it off on that one. Gatland knows he has to find new type forwards, let a couple of newbies before their time, says in this one. Yeah, and yet one of the things that Vivek did was actually, I think, was put in quite a few players, perhaps rotated too many, and they don't have enough experience. I think that's been part of Gatland's problem, is that so it'll be interesting to see how Gatland solves this. Does he bring in some of those young players with not much experience, and they end up having negative experiences with a whole bunch of losses, or does he actually hold off for the Six Nations and bring them in, actually take them straight to the World Cup, not experienced enough, but also not damaged by these games? We'll have to wait and see on that one. Kicks again, Wales last week did the least kicks. This week again, just 25. So not the least. Wales, Italy did 23, but still Wales, not very many kicks, far too many penalties, and not scoring points. Those three things. They need to improve that kicking game, and they also need to obviously clean up their discipline, and that should hopefully reduce the number of points they're giving up, and hopefully create some opportunities for them. 50% kicking at goals. Well, that's not very good, is it? Last week they were 100%, so 1 out of 2, missing one kick. It's perhaps not that important, really, if you think about it from that point of view. But Scotland, a cracking game, but also you've got to say they've played Wales and England. They've got France and Ireland coming up. So they're two biggest and real tasks, but still fantastic for Scotland to get 2 wins under their belts. This puts them in a situation where they should be third in the table so far. Not right. Scotland seemed really focused so far. Russell and Townsend made finally in sync. Yeah, Russell, cracking game in this one. Been having a chat about World 15 of the Year, and perhaps we'll visit towards the end of the Six Nations. But yeah, is Finn Russell the best 10 in the world at the moment? I don't think so. He blows far too hot and cold, but he can be extremely good, and should be part of that sort of conversation as an honourable mention, I think, as to the World 15, but not. I wouldn't put him as my 10 personally. Final game then, England versus Italy, and a game that was over basically at half time, where England just bullied Italy with this one. The penalty try plus 3 more from Maul's, only one really, which is the late one on 71 minutes, wasn't around the line out Maul. So again, discipline a problem for Italy in this one. England just bullied them and just used that dominant scrum. I mean, for Italy to have to sub their captain after 23 minutes was really a big blow for them, as they just got bullied 19-0 at half time. Great for England to get that result after that loss to Scotland, very important, but not a game plan that I think is going to hold up against an Ireland, against a France, or a Springboks, or those sort of teams. Good for them to get that result, as I say, but they're not going to be able to bully teams in the way that they managed to bully Italy. So still a lot of work to do. Owen Farrell, again, the worst kicker of the round. That's 2 weeks on the bounce now. That's got to be concerning, even if he was kicking those a lot of them from out wide. Line out mauls tend to give you difficult conversion kicks to kick. But even so, 50% from him, not good. The line-out works really well, 21 from 21 for England, actually. I mean, Italy also had a perfect line-out, 14 from 14, so they didn't steal very many, but at least their set piece was there for them. Again, though, this week, 40 missed tackles, but that's only 7 penalties compared to 14 from Italy. Meant and the bullying nature that they had, that they could get away with those missed tackles there. Italy again, talking about that, not kicking very many, 23 kicking from hand last week, 26 meant they were. So again, I'd say a run from anywhere style of play. Now, they said they're not going to go away from that, but you do wonder if a more pragmatic approach, a bit more balance in that kick versus run, having more of an attacking kicking style might help them there, because the teams that kick the most tend to win the most. That's kind of something that's been around for a while now with that one. So, a bit concerning, I think, for Italy on that, about getting that balance right. But so I guess we saw from Argentina that they went hell for leather, offloading and attacking from anywhere, trying before they got to a more balanced approach and reined it back in again. So interesting. So so maybe that's what they need to do to get to the final place. Look, they controlled. They didn't have to make that many tackles, only 127. That's going to be good. That shows you kind of got the ball. But England basically was just pinning them back and making them play out of their 22. England, look, with 30 kicks there, but only 14 lineouts for Italy. So perhaps not so much as Ireland. A lot of their kicks infield, as you see there, they're the most kicks. Only France, only 10 lineouts, so very few kicks going out. Whereas England, with those 21 lineouts, sure they had 14 penalties, but they also Italy, when they were kicking, were just giving it to a lineout rather than sort of contestable ball in or contestable situation in that one. So that's kind of, we take a week off now for the Six Nations, where some battered bodies get to have a bit of a rest before Italy host Ireland, which will also be another tough one for Italy. But it does mean then they'll have played 3 of their toughest games by then, because Ireland, not France, England, who they've always struggled against. They've never beaten England, and then Ireland, which could mean that Wales, their game after that, is the one they'll really be targeting, you'd think. Wales v England, normally Wales get themselves up for this game, especially in Cardiff, but Wales have a scrum at the moment that you think England could probably bully in the way they did it. It's the way they did Italy, perhaps not to the same extent, but I think it's Wales are definitely, I think, have got a sign at the moment that is bullyable. So you can see, so that's going to be a tough one, I think, for Wales, especially after those poor performance against Scotland. And then finally, France versus Scotland. Is this where the dream ends for Scotland? Got those 2 wins, still on for the, or still at the Grand Slam, still a possibility. But going to Paris, that is, let's be honest, a tough one. But should be a cracking game to watch that one. So that one, the Italy Ireland is at 3:15 a.m. on the Sunday, followed by Wales England at 5:45 a.m. And then France Scotland at 4 a.m. Now remember, not next weekend, but the weekend after. I don't want you getting up early and blaming me for not getting any sleep and then not finding rugby on that one. So that's the situation with that one. Obviously, next week we'll preview. We'll have a look forward to those games, but I've already given you some ideas to my thoughts on that. Let's be honest. We'll also, we'll also have another round of Super Rugby pre-season games, and also be able to preview the Super Rugby season. Perhaps set up a what are the expectations for each team, so we can see whether each team has a successful or unsuccessful season at the end of it. Talking to Moana Pacifica, they are looking at making the playoffs, and so that means top 8 for them. But they were talking top 6, and I guess if you're going to try to be top 8, you don't aim for 8th. If you aim for 6th and then miss it, then you're still in that top 8, aren't you? So it's probably the better way to go about it on that one. So those, as I say, are some of the stuff that's coming up that we'll be talking about. So next week, we'll give you what we think are the sort of expectations for every single team in Super Rugby Pacific is on that one, and also a report from that pre-season game of 3 halves for the women's teams, the Blues, Warriors, Hearts, and Chiefs, as well as I will be at Chiefs versus Blues in the men's side of things. Been a quick one this evening, but Simon Hughes does bring up that Major League Rugby is starting this weekend, their next season, and there's a new team called the Miami Sharks. Oh boy, do we need another Sharks team? We've obviously got the Sharks who play in South Africa. We've also got the Sale Sharks in the Premiership, and now we have the Miami Sharks in Major League Rugby. Yay! Yes, do we need another Sharks team? No, we don't. So whilst the Gilgronis and Giltinis might have been a bit of a mess at the end of last season, getting caught up in controversies around salary cap issues and their owner throwing his toys out of the pram a bit, at least they had names that were unique. Miami, I'm sorry you've let us down there by calling yourselves the Sharks. I must admit, I've been keeping an eye on the on Major League Rugby as closely as I have the past couple of years. But good to see it's still running. That's the big thing. If you think during COVID, where all the other rugby teams were cutting player salaries, Major League Rugby still paid out all their players' contracts in full. So good with that one there. Simon Hughes also mentions that Chicago will be replacing Austin in that one. And Nocturne Wright says Major League Rugby stuff with New Zealand provincial reps, meaning that they're not playing club rugby here. Can't blame them, as it's a wage. Absolutely. There are a number of players who, if they don't get that Super Rugby contract, head over to Major League Rugby instead, and then come back, play the Bunnings MPC, hoping to get a Super Rugby contract. And if not, head back over to the US as well. Then there's a few that have gone over there permanently. Your Danny Tuala's spring to mind on that one as well. So hope you all stay safe, folks. I don't know if you can hear over the microphone the heavy rain against the roof here. I hope my leak around my chimney is nothing too serious. And I hope you all stay safe, folks, and catch you all next week, obviously on Monday night at 8 p.m. for the DrivingMaul show. Also, I say I will be at those games on Friday, so I'll be active on Twitter at DrivingMaul. Join that, catch my photos and stuff, and then the post-match interviews will all be posted to the New Zealand Sport Radio Facebook page. So do check those out.